of the most admirable chasers you could possibly wish to see.
Good afternoon and welcome to the first of this week's episodes of the Race Hour podcast, kindly sponsored by BetMGM UK in association with Gambling.com. As ever, I'm Darren Hughes in the host chair, but as ever, you aren't here for me, but my stunning panel of guests. And first up is Mr. Race Hour himself, Diarmuid Nolan. How are you, Diarmuid?
All good, Darren. How's things? How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. Looking forward to running through the Cheltenham undercard this week with you lads. It was a decent enough weekend's racing, but we've got plenty to talk about anyway coming up with the festival less than a month away, or only a month away now, as it is. Next up is a man we can probably justify as describing as a Race Hour regular by now. It's Gary Connolly. All good, Gary?
All good, Darren. All good. How are you?
Brilliant. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm all good. All good. And last but certainly not least, the one man on this panel who's actually ridden a winner, Paddy Aspell. All good on your end, Paddy?
Yeah, sound. How are you doing, boys?
We're good. We're good.
He prefers to be known as Jersey's champion jockey, isn't it, Paddy?
That's right.
Is Jersey in the country?
It's the only title I hold, but generally I was only out there for tax purposes, but managed to nick a few winners.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Good man yourself. Yeah, listen, as a fellow tax exile, I can sympathise. Anyway, instead of reviewing the weekend's action, we're going to take a quick look at the Cheltenham Festival undercard. Some of the lesser lights of races that maybe haven't been covered in massive detail just yet, certainly by us here at the Race Hour. And we're going to start off with the Mares Hurdle on Tuesday. Lossiemouth is obviously a very strong favourite here, kind of 4-6, 8-11 with our sponsors, BetMGM UK. Diarmuid Nolan, any opposition to the favourite?
She was brilliant, wasn't she? She was so good. First time out. The only chink that I can see in her arm is that she looks really, really pacey, and at 2.5 miles could just be something. But she does look that kind of, superlatively talented that you just kind of say to yourself that horses like that belie any trip, really. They could just keep winning. Annie Power nearly won a Stayers Hurdle, etc., just because she was that good. But just from an each way point of view, Darren, because again, this race, like a lot of them, has the propensity to kind of cut up because, you've got the likes of Under Control, Zenta, and these horses there as well, kind of around the place. Magical Zoe, they could all go handicapping. So, you could end up with kind of a weird field here. So I would be looking to not so much take her on, but take another chance in Gala Marceau, who I thought desperately needed that last run. Should come on an awful lot. I heard Danny Mullins talking with the tote, and he said that she was quite gassy on the day. So Gala Marceau at 8-1 would just be my idea here, Darren, of a decent enough each way bet to kind of to nothing, because as the race shape here is, I think she definitely will be first three at the very least. But I think there could be enough improvement in there where she could at least trouble Lossiemouth there.
That's a more than fair argument there, Diarmuid. Once again, I have caught myself out on mute. I will hold hands up. More than fair argument. It could be a race that, kind of similar to the Champion Hurdle. You could end up with a weird amount of runners, and you could be nicking a bit of value on the play side of the bet, and maybe even on the win side of the bet also. Paddy, I'm going to come to you. I think the mare at the head of the market looks pretty bomb-proof. Are you in agreement, or what are your thoughts?
Oh no, definitely. But she's priced accordingly, isn't she? And unless you're absolutely getting stuck in, you're not going to be pulling much back out of Lossiemouth. But she deserves to be that price on what she did the other day. And I mean, Diarmuid does touch on a good point. She is very pacey, but I do think that effort the last day was, although she is pacey, it was the most manageable I've ever seen her in the early part of a race. So I myself would be looking at the each way angle here, and obviously Kenny Alexander, Diarmuid mentioned Garama, so he's got a very strong team here. But although she's 9-year-old, tell me something, girl, they sacked off the chasing campaign pretty quick, didn't they? It just wasn't happening.
She jumped like a snooker table, didn't she? She didn't jump great at all. Like she never really took to it.
No, it wasn't happening for her, to be honest. And look, you've got a good broodmare prospect there. You don't want to finish her jumping fences, but because she's shown that she's more than capable still, has got an awful lot of ability over the smaller obstacles. And although she is going to be given age to a good few of these, she's got a really, really good RPR right up there with the best of these. I'd probably be looking at her maybe as the each way angle, considering Kenny Alexander has confirmed that both her and Garland Marceau are definitely going to go here.
Oh God, she really should have won that race back then, shouldn't she? Jesus, that day when she came down behind Marie's Rock, I was never as heartbroken in my whole life. Well, I have been, but not quite watching Cheltenham.
Yeah, just tough going, all right, especially for her supporters. Two each way angles from the lads here. Gary, are you going to book the trend and just say get stuck in at 4 to 6, 8 to 13?
No, I'll be with the lads each way here. I've been tipping away now at this anti-post for a while. I think Garland Marceau is a right bet here each way. She's ended up on Wednesday in the Corvega hurdle at Punchestown. So anti-post wise, she's got a short from the eights. Eight is just way too big. It's a massive price. She'll be short after she wins on Wednesday. Like last season, her best performance was over the extended trip in Auteuil in March. She beat a horse, Longchamp Bleu, French horse. Grade 1 winner since. Sarek the Brave was back in thirds. He won a Galway hurdle next time out. I just think the extended trip will suit her more than Lossiemouth. Lossiemouth's likeliest winner, but she last year she pulled the whole way around to try and hurdle. Like she won't get away with doing that over this sort of trip against Garland Marceau here. I think over this type of trip, Garland Marceau might just outstay the Fav. But I think she's bomb-proof in the top three. Can't see her at the top three. And it's one of these each-way bets, like in the champion hurdle. It's tough to see Constitution Hill getting beat. It's more likely Lossiemouth will get beat here, and I think Garland Marceau is the one to beat if it happens. So, I've had a decent bet each way on it. I'm going to keep tipping away until the day. This could cut up as well. So, force trade at the moment. So, strong each way selection for me.
Well, maybe a little bit unexpected. We're going to kick the show off with an 8 to 13 fab that's opposed by all three members of the panel to varying degrees of confidence, perhaps mostly so by Gary Connolly. We're going to move on now to the cross-country chase on the Wednesday. Strange look to this race in comparison to other years. It's something of a Gordon Elliott benefit, minus Manella Indo, who obviously does head the market, but Gordon has Galvin, Delta Work, Cocoa Beach, Conflated. There's a raft of Grade 1 winners in here. I don't know whether I could stand over that given the nature of the race and what it used to be. Gary, I'm going to stick with you. I might ask you for two thoughts. What should they do with this race, and your thoughts on the winner at this stage, if you have any?
Oh, it's a joke shop of a race now. They need to move it back to a handicap as soon as possible. Like it's just a benefit for 1 yard, as you said. Usually, Manella Indo is probably an outlier there, but it's just a farce of a race having these Grade 1 horses. It wasn't a race designed for those type of horses at all. Move it back to a handicap, and if it was a handicap, it'd be a real competitive race. But it's just it doesn't fit into the festival anymore. It's bit of a joke. So sooner they change it, the better. In saying that, there is a few because Elliott's running so many. It looks a decent enough race this year. I'd just be siding with Manella Indo, I think. Short enough now, but had a decent sight there in December. It wasn't off a yard and been kept away for it since. So likeliest winner for me, but too short to probably get stuck in. Really have a bet on the day. It's not going to be getting any shorter in the meantime. So Manella Indo. Yeah,
hard to see him shortening up too much from the 5 to 2. I suppose maybe if other horses in the race are confirmed for the race. Obviously, some question marks about Conflated's participation at this stage. Paddy, I'm going to come to you next. Same two questions I had for Gary. Would you be in favour of turning the race back into a handicap and maybe having a rating ceiling on it? And do you have any idea of the winner at this point?
Yes, without a doubt. I think people's interest would grow an awful lot, Darren, if they would just turn this back into a handicap because, I think ratings, in a sense, can go out the window here because, you look at the likes of Late Night Pass. He ran over hurdles the other day, Haydock, and he couldn't keep up if he'd have set off the day before. But you send him around a course like this, is a different horse, and people are more than happy to run out of the handicap here because, this is a real speciality course, really. And Manella Indo, obviously he went into plenty of notebooks, didn't he, when he made his debut around here, carrying plenty of weight. But because of that, he wasn't missed in the market. He was looked after that day. And they're almost like veterans races nowadays, aren't they, these? And obviously Gordon's got a very, very strong hand in this. But I mean, the likes of Foxy Jacks, I know he can be a bit of a liability at times. Under over regulation fences, I wouldn't ride him for £1,000, Foxy Jacks. But I mean, he's pretty good round here, isn't he? When he gets it right, he's got an awful lot of ability. He did win around here last year, but the horse that I mentioned, Darren, Late Night Pass, although he is 11-year-old, he just is different gravy around here. They ride him very, very patiently. Just for a horse of his rating, he just travels so strong, and he does have a real liking for it here. And you've always got to keep an eye on the French horses here, and they're the much younger legs here with Hip Hop Conti. He's only a 7-year-old. They've got an awful lot of miles on the clock over probably more difficult tracks than this in France, so they maybe find this test pretty easy. But I'd be looking at something like Late Night Pass, because he's going to run his race, whether younger legs or maybe something that bit classier are going to do him on the day. At least he represents a bit of value at round about 10 or 11 to 1.
Yeah, Late Night Pass 10 to 1 with our sponsors BetMGM. Another each way selection there for Paddy Aspell. Away from the front of the market, and he's probably correct in saying this is massively a specialist course. Dermo, I've yet to come to you on this. I know you probably have strong thoughts on what way the race should look going forward in the future. You're also something of a Manila Indo fanboy. Does he win this?
Oh God, yeah. I weirdly these colours always trap me in. I was a big Monley man as well, and then I was obviously Manila Indo, and now I'm Monty Star. So whatever these colours are putting out, I'm definitely picking it up anyway. But yeah, look, I love that performance last time. This horse is a bona fide, Gold Cup horse who's now dropping down, which seems to be the new credentials for this race. I think it's a bit of a joke that I think the likes of this race should be kept for the likes of a Peter Maher, etc. That's who I think should be winning cross country chases, not horses that are just beyond Gold Cups. I know it's hard to fix, but races like this in the Fox Hunter, I just think that they're in the festival to serve a different level of trainer than the trainers that are maybe targeting it now. I think it kind of is, but look, that's a different matter for another day. He to me now does represent value even at that price, because he's just such a good horse. I do like Foxy Jacks from an each way point of view as well. I think that Paddy's point about horses kind of loving this race regardless of weight or not makes sense. And Foxy Jacks is such a strange horse because his best form is going left-handed, but he jumps right. He's just a bit of a nutcase, whatever it is. He's ran some screamers at Leopardstown, etc. But it just, all of them still have quite a bit to do to catch Indo, even based on his normal form this season. Delta Work has won it the last twice. He's going to be very interesting. Obviously, Galvin ran a blinder here last year. Cocoa Beach was a natural last time I punched down, but I just wouldn't have him up to this to the phase of the top three. And Conflated looks like he's going Ryanair. So I would have it down between the first three. My heart is telling me Indo, and actually my head is as well there.
Head and heart for Diarmuid Nolan, and general consensus there from the lads that the current makeup of the race in terms of the conditions of it maybe aren't ideal as it stands. Move on now to the other race, and the next race on the Wednesday, the final race on the Wednesday, I should say. And I must confess, this is a division that has largely passed me by this year. It's the Champion Bumper. Probably fair to say the two main talking horses have been Maureen and Tishan on the respective sides of the Irish Sea. And Paddy Aspell, I'm going to come to you first of all. Can you shed some light maybe on this race for us and our listeners?
Well, even the form of the Maureen race has already been franked, hasn't it? I think it was the third or fourth, came out and won quite well the other day. And yeah, obviously went into the race with a fair old reputation, got the job done. And I think it's always worth noting, I do find that when Patrick thinks he's on a proper one, he tends to go around the houses, doesn't he? It's what he did on Maureen that day, and she was strong through the line. Tishan, very, very interesting little horse. I mean, I watched that race, and I mean, the runner-up was a huge price, although he looked a fair specimen in the paddock beforehand. And Tishan, he wouldn't knock your eye out or anything, but I think he won that point-to-point in Ireland by something like 49 lengths. But apparently he was really good on the clock. So
clock was brilliant, yeah. Clock was it was rapid, quick compared to everything else in the day, yeah.
Borderline freakish performance. You know, you think a horse winning that far, not being challenged at any stage of the race, but still runs a good time. He's obviously got a fair bit of ability. And interesting, this isn't a route, is it, that Paul Nicholls goes down? So whether Johnny Delahaye, I think Johnny Delahaye's got more horses than any other owner in the Nicholls team now, whether he's twisted his arm to have a go at this, because I don't think that was the chat straight off the back of that win the other day. But yeah, he's interesting. But visually, I didn't think he was the scopiest of individuals. And I thought Dan Skelton's mare here, Let It Rain, she was very impressive at Ascot. The way she went through the race, very, very professional. And, you know, I thought she nailed a good one that day and beat him quite nicely. And but because obviously in against the boys here, she is going to be a reasonable price. And another one here, I was quite taken with him on debut. I just thought he'd done an awful lot wrong, Darren, and probably done enough to get himself beat, was Wingmen for Gordon Elliott. Really, Harry Swan, he couldn't knock a swing out of this fella at Naas on debut. He was keen the whole way. And I just think if he had no ability, he should have fallen in a hole that day. But he picked up and went again when challenged. So because, you know, we're so recency biased, aren't we, as far as backing horses? Because that was a fair while ago now. I think he has been forgotten about a little bit. So Wingmen was an interesting price. I do quite like the bumper. I think it's generally sometimes the horse that's gone under the radar that we've kind of forgotten about a little bit tend to pop up. But yeah, I thought Dan Skelton's mare, Let It Rain, was worth a look. But definitely Wingmen as well for Gordon Elliott in the Bective stud colours.
Wingman for Paddy Aspell taking a bit of a swing, and from what I can see there, I'll come back to you on the price. I think he's 20-1 with our sponsors, BetMGM. So a plenty fair swing there from Paddy Aspell. Dermot, I will come to you next. Can you shed any light on the bumper for us?
Yeah, I'd just, at big odds, I'd like if Baby Kate ran here. Now, I wouldn't be surprised to see her go on and run, the Aintree Mares bumper instead. But Baby Kate was very good. Missed the DRF because of the desperate ground there, but was very good here at Cheltenham at the November meeting, beating Juna Bell, who was fancied that day for Brian A. Frost, Lucy Wadham. And that's a decent horse as well. Like, just won really well under Brian Hayes. The form definitely isn't up to the front for you, but I really like what that horse did that day. The first foal out of Augusta Kate as well. So definitely no mug of a horse by any means. So Baby Kate will be one, and then the other one, then I absolutely love. Both of these are about 25-1 each, but again, we're waiting on the day to see if they actually run. But Flora Fusel as well, who won at the Dublin Racing Festival. That was a mad performance because this horse pulled the head off herself for the whole way, basically, on that Sunday. Took it up and still had enough of the tank to win by 2.5. Ran away with Jodie Townend and still won. If Jodie Townend or whoever rides the horse, I imagine Jodie would keep the ride. To manage to get this horse set a little bit, extremely dangerous, especially with, there will be a frantic pace on here anyway. There always is in these bumpers, really. She could as well. So both at big odds, Darren, Baby Kate and Flora Fusel, because again, as we know in this race, Willie Mullins' first choice doesn't necessarily correspond to the winner all the time here at all.
It sure doesn't. He's had some big price winners in the past. Paul McKeown's horse that won under Katie Walsh, Relegate, wasn't it?
Relegate, yeah.
Yeah, and I think even Fernie Hollow was a 10 or 11-1 shot the year that he went and won this race. So, yeah, certainly wouldn't be beyond a big price winner from that yard. Baby Kate, of course, bred by former Ireland striker Kevin Doyle. Gary, I am going to move on to you last of all for the champion bumper. I know it's not the most punter-friendly race, as we've kind of touched on, but do you have anything you're even leaning towards at this stage?
I'll throw another outsider in the mix. Now, probably I'd be interested to hear Paddy after this, but Gold in the Mountains for Martin Brazel. Really liked his performance at Christmas. Very taken by it. Now, I thought he went through the race very well and showed a nice burst of speed at the end. That was his second run. He ran first time out in Punchestown Festival, where he was fancied as well. He ran okay to be fourth. Martin's not one to rush his horses, so the fact he's shown up quite well in these bumpers is quite telling, I think. Now, he won't be 100% guaranteed to go, but if he does, it's 20-1 there. Plenty of spots at the moment. He looks uncomplicated in regards to tactics with him. I thought he showed a lot there. Leopardstown, like the third Mullins Contigo. He came in, one was heading his chest next time out, so form looks solid there. Yeah, I think there's a lot to like about him, and 20-1 in a very open looking year. He'll do for me.
Well, the amount is then for Gary Connolly. I know he was a much bigger price in the exchange at one stage, but looks to have shortened up a little bit. So this may actually end up being his intended target. Paddy, I don't know, can you shed any light on the horse's plans?
Yeah, no, he's a good sort, and if they can keep the wheels on him, he'll definitely go. And I mean, the interesting thing about this horse is, you know, he would have started out life because he was bred by the China Horse Racing Club. So, you know, the plans were for this fella to hopefully be a fairly smart horse on the level, but he's obviously ended up down this route. But he started off with a very good outfit in when he was with the Pat Doyle stable. Obviously, Pat King kept the ride, but he's been both ways. He's been left-handed, he's been right-handed. Just very, very hard to knock this horse. And, you know, like the boys were saying, the Leopardstown race has worked out quite nicely. So, yeah, fingers crossed he'll be there on the day, and definitely deserves to be.
Okay, that's it's obviously a promise. You don't see too many El Manzors in the champion bumper, so that much is true. So maybe not this lad's initial plan when he was when he came out of the womb, but not to say he can't make up into a perfectly nice national hunt horse. Gary, I am going to stick with you for the next race on our running order, and that is the Mayor's Novice Hurdle. 3 very strong candidates to head the market here in the shape of Jade de Grugy, Brighter Days Ahead, Dysart Enos, kind of 5-2 the first 2 and 4-1 Dysart Enos thereabouts. Do you have a strong view on this at this stage?
That's an absolute cracking race, this, isn't it?
Isn't it? Yeah, isn't it though? Actually, like, as in maybe in absolute quality, it's not going to be like a Supreme or a Ballymore.
The shit me and Paddy took down on a recent podcast, and we said that this was a better race.
Yeah,
from you, Darren.
No, hold on a minute. Two things can be true at once. It can be a brilliant race. It's going to be a brilliant race, but it's still not a better race than the Supreme. Like, isn't it?
No, but the wording probably got us caught there, so because
I
meant a better race, as in more intriguing race than the Ballymore. Is what I meant. Not...
Maybe. I think, relatively speaking, it's a brilliant race. Like, for what the Mayor's Novice Hurdle should be.
Yeah, of course. But
race,
I hardly say we've got 3 fucking Gold Cup winners in here, am I?
No,
I'm saying that as a race, it's a more intriguing affair than what the Bearing Bingham probably is.
Yeah, maybe potentially. Now, after yesterday and Ballyburn may be going to Bearing. Anyway, we won't go down that road. I'm heartbroken at the moment. Jesus Christ!
I don't see Ballyburn changing, but go on.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. You're right, Gary. I stick with you anyhow. Before Dermot so rudely interrupted us. Brilliant race, as we both said, and we've both been in agreement about that since day one. What way do you see it going?
I think it'd be a cracking betting race now as well, because you give the three of them the three of them have all the supporters, and you can give reasons why any 3 should win. Of the 2 Irish ones, if it comes up soft, I think Bright Days Ahead wins from those. If it comes up anything good, I'd be siding with the Mullins one. But I think they both be beat by Dysart Enos. Just really like this mare. Campaign-wise, she's been campaigning not to get the penalty, so she's coming there with £5 less. Form-wise, I think beating the Bat at Cheltenham there in December, I think that's probably the best form on offer in the race. Like, visually, she's been impressive, but I think there's a lot more to come. She just needs something to bring it out of her. Like, that Aintree Mare's bumper win last year was just brilliant as well. Like, if she was trained by Willie Mullins, she'd be very short fab now, I think, here. And I think she gives Virgil O'Brien his first win.
Virgil O'Brien is long overdue first winner at the Cheltenham Festival. You could go as far as to say. Paddy, are you in agreement with Gary?
Yeah, exactly. I mentioned Dysart Enos the other day. The only time she has been beaten was on her debut in a point-to-point, and you know, she finished second, only beaten a couple of lengths, and she's taken a few scalps since then. Beat Queen's Gamble at Market Raising in a listed bumper, and another mare here that I wanted to mention, she was 9 lengths behind her in the age of bumper, was Golden Ace. Now, Golden Ace, her form is really starting to come together as well, and she is improving herself with racing. But the thing with Dysart Enos, yes, she's probably showing her hand a bit more than a few of these, and you know, she's a 6-year-old. We've got plenty of 5-year-olds and 4-year-olds in here, but she's very, very uncomplicated, albeit she's quite pacey, but she doesn't pull. Paddy Brennan can go down the inner. He tends to actually ride her down the outside most times, but she's very uncomplicated. the race, hopefully, at Donny the other day, it was literally only a spin round where she was able to win with her head in her chest. Should just set her up nicely. And I would say it again, lads, honestly, I do think that if Paddy Brennan wins on this mare, I think he'll retire at Cheltenham, because it'll be a massive one for the pair of them. Obviously, Fergal's first Cheltenham winner, and obviously Paddy is he's 40 odd now, and he's dropped more than one hint that he's getting right towards the end here. So could be a fairy tale story.
Yeah, it'll be a hell of a swan song for Paddy Brennan, who I think this year has kind of said he's not going to ride for anybody except for Fergal O'Brien, to try and keep his body in shape for as long as he possibly can. So I don't think anybody would begrudge them that joint Cheltenham Festival victory. And Dermot, I will come to you last of all on the Mayor's Novice Hurdle, seeing as it is your race of the week, or whatever you want to call it. I know you've got a very strong opinion on how this might go, so do you want to enlighten our listeners?
There's an old a political career somewhere for you there, Darren, with the rewording of this now. But I think this is a cracking race. Golden Ace, as Paddy said, is definitely been overlooked. She's been really, really impressive as well. But it is between the first three, really. I just love the fact that all three camps are just so positive about their mare. You know, like Gordon Elliott and all of them down there, they cannot have her beaten. They just can't have it. Jack Kennedy was saying on the road to Cheltenham that, you know, he'd love to run her in the Supreme. He'd have no potter going there with her. Only they have Firefox. You then have Fergal O'Brien, obviously, who nearly gets giddy about Dice Sardinos, and then finally, you know, you end up here with Jade de Grugy, who I think everyone keeps forgetting how good she was at Christmas. You know, she hammered that field at Christmas on heavy ground, turned up last time, did it again, different circumstances under Brian Hayes. And it was the confidence that day in the market. When they come for a Willie Mullins young horse like this, sometimes you just know they're quite good. They smashed her up. She absolutely battered them. She just, to me, Jade de Grugy is the one. I think she could be very, very good. But it's just great. It really does vindicate Cheltenham on one decision anyway, that this mare's Novice Hurdle is understandably much maligned, but people did keep saying, you know, you create these races and the horse will come. This kind of backs that up. You know, this race is really good. So I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, I am quite confident, as I have been for quite a while, that Jade de Grugy is just a notch above them. But I think it's one of those races where you could run this 10 times and you could end up with nine different results. But I think Jade de Grugy does win twice out of 10. So I think she's the best of these, but again, on the day, I don't think there's much at all between them.
Jade de Grugy should be an 11-2 shot, according to Diarmuid Nolan. If you want to, I'm only joking. I'd be inclined to agree with you. I think she's the one out of the three of them. I think she's probably the fastest. If it was over the Mayor's Hurdle trip, I actually might side with Brighter Days Ahead myself. But I think at this stage, Jade de Grugy might just be the one that's most ready to rock. But the best thing about it is we've only about a month to wait and see. Dermot, I am going to stick with you for the next race on our running order. It's the Mayor's Chase. And I would put it to you, Diarmuid Nolan, is Dino Blue not a hell of a bet here at even money?
Yeah, she is. And I'm not an even money a man at all, but I don't know, will they run Limerick Lace? I think the problem for her is that she's improved an awful lot over 2 miles. I think it's a real pity that Impervious isn't here, because every horse that Impervious smashed up last season seems to be improving this year. So I think, you know, she could be as good as any horse, really. But Dino Blue has completely stepped out into her own. She's been fantastic, but she's been fantastic over 2 miles. I would love to take her on, but there's nothing here, really. We know where we stand with Allegoria Devassi, and she's very short, considering, you know, jumping the last year, she must have traded long odds on against Impervious and just got completely outgunned up the running, and then put in her place firmly afterwards. This Mayor's Chase is ultimately disappointing, but injuries has done that. You know, like you could have Dino Blue versus Harmonia Maker, not Harmonia Maker, versus Halka du Taber versus Impervious, but you know, injury has robbed us of that. So yeah, Darren, evens about Dino Blue. Kind of struggling to understand how she still evens, considering what she's done this season. You know, she's on form and everything else. She is miles clear here.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. Like I won't say I'm as adverse to backing an even money shot maybe as you might be, but I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the makeup of the race, and I'm going like, surely she's more of like an 8-13, 4-7 shot with what's in front of her at the moment. Paddy, I'll come to you next of all. Are you in agreement with myself and Dermo, or are you trying to take more of an each way swing at this race as it stands?
I'm a little bit surprised. I thought she'd be a bit tighter at the prices, to be honest, because I mean, she deserved to run against El Fabiolo last time, and I think she turned up and ran a race that day, albeit beaten by 8.5 lengths. She's very, very solid. There's no doubt. I wouldn't like her really to get much shorter, to be honest, because most of her best form is 2 mile, isn't it? She's not an absolute, nailed on over 2.5 as far as her best form goes. I'd like her to keep hovering around that sort of price, and you definitely be very keen. Probably worth giving a mention, one here that not many people, I don't think, will have on the radar, and she was a fair way behind Limerick Lace when they ran at Doncaster, and that was Carroll's Pass for Amy Murphy. But that day at Doncaster, really, she'd no realistic chance. They dropped her out stone last, and all she was doing was picking up the pieces and finishing third that day. Then she got wiped out behind Bride's Hill at Huntingdon when she unseated. But when they stepped her up to 3 mile at Exeter last week, she won by 7.5 lengths. Now, obviously, it was very deep ground, but she travelled, but more so her jumping was fantastic. It really was good. I know, obviously, she would be coming back in trip here, but this is another mare who really is improving at a rapid rate of knots. And Amy Murphy, very, very capable trainer, especially with these National Hunt mares. So she is going to go under the radar a little bit simply because she's trained by, a relatively small Newmarket trainer. But I definitely have seen worse 25-1 pokes than Carroll's Pass, because probably going to have a bit of pace to aim at here, which she will certainly need, because she showed the other day in heavy ground over 3 that she stays. But she could be worth a little poke in a good race like that to at least hit the frame anyway at a price.
Carroll's Pass for Paddy Aspell, that's an interesting one. Yeah, I think, again, this is one of them races where if you can find a runner at a price like that, you're probably as well taking each way swing, because you're not guaranteed to get a full field here, I'd say. Obviously, Limerick Lace is pretty short in the market. She's not a guaranteed runner, etc., etc. Gary, obviously, I'll come to you last of all. I've already laid my cards on the table. If I'm looking for a winner at this stage on the Friday, I know exactly where my money will be going, especially if she's around even money. That'll be Dino Blue. Are you in agreement, or would you prefer to take a more sensible view on the race, let's say?
I'd be definitely taking on Dino Blue at the prices. I just like, she holds a big class edge, but I'd just be very negative on the trip, stepping up and trip with her. She does look a 2 miler to me, so I think she's very vulnerable over this type of trip, especially if the rain arrived on the Thursday or Friday. Similar price probably to Allegor de Bassi. So more than likely I'll be laying both. What'll beat them, I don't know. Maybe Bride's Hill, who's improving, could outstay both of them, but I don't have a strong opinion on the winner. I'd just be against the top 2 on the market, just purely on the trip and ground. Hopefully it's soft.
Yeah, that's not an unreasonable point of view. Well, I think it's unreasonable. Maybe some of our listeners won't. Trip is definitely a doubt for Dina Blue, and Allegory de Vassi, it's impossible to trust her at this stage. So an interesting race awaits us, I will say. Paddy, I'm going to come to you. You might be the most knowledgeable out of the 3 of us, or the 4 of us sitting here, about the last race in our running order, and that is the Hunter's Chase, which also takes place on the Friday, the Cheltenham Festival. Again, I must confess, it's a division that somewhat passed me by this year. I know Friends Lock is the favourite at in and around 2-1, 9-4. But I don't know too much about him or any of the other horses that are in this. It's not an area of expertise for me. Do you have any sort of an opinion on it, be it strong or otherwise at this stage?
Well, these are the types of races that you do like. You know, Dermo was saying a minute ago about the cross-country chase. These are the likes of the races that you want Dave Christie turning up in and winning, you know, because this is their bread and butter. This is their bag. And the only 7-year-old Ferns Lock, he is very, very capable. I mean, he's got an RPR of 155, and for a hunter chaser, now that's fairly smart, without a doubt. We've seen It's on the Line in a very hard race at Naas the other day, didn't he? But in fairness, he must have an awful lot of ability, because you would have had your house on Billaway getting him up the run in, but he somehow went again and managed to hang on. Billaway, he's just so hard to gauge, isn't he? Because he can, like he was the other day, be absolutely tailed off. He's 12-year-old now, but he started getting clever a good while ago, Billaway. But there's an awful lot of ability there, but it's just whether he's going to lose his posse and whether the race falls apart in front of him. The UK, believe it or not, for Chris Barber, the third in here, Famous Claremont. This is a fair horse, Famous Claremont. I know it is a 9-year-old, but it's in very, very good hands. Obviously, Will Biddick would have an awful lot to do with that operation as well. I'm not surprised to see him third in here in the betting, Famous Claremont. Very, very capable horse. I mentioned he does have to give a little bit of age to one or two of the more fancied rivals here, but certainly wouldn't put a line through him. But hunting wise, I would be honest with you, Darren, this would never be a race that I would get involved with. But that said, I don't mind watching it, because there is always some classy horses on show.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that. I would never pretend to know the form book inside out or upside down when it comes to these horses, but there is always usually there's a good amount of times there's a story attached to the winner. That's why we all love the sport as we do. And I do remember Famous Claremont sluicing through the field last year at Aintree. It was a sight to behold, even though it might be the classiest race ever run around that particular track. Gary, I will come to you next of all for the Hunter Chase. You're into your kind of weird, deviant racing, so maybe you might have some sort of a view on this for us.
I'll take that as a compliment. Like this race, yeah, it looks a good race. Fernslock, easily the most talented horse in the field, but I just think he's very soft. If it's put up to him, he'll fold up the hill. So I'd be against him in that element. I liked it's on the line. He's just a pure rogue now.
Yeah, agreed.
He had a lot more left in the tank the last day.
Way more, yeah.
So I wouldn't say he had as hard a race as it looked. To be honest, now hopefully they slap a bit of headgear on him for the festival. But like he's only a 7-year-old, so there's in this type of race, like there's still plenty of upside to him. Emmett Mullins he's some boy to get them right for the day. I'm sure there'll be money arriving for him as well. So I think he'll be tough B here.
Yeah, he's an ignorant Ustad. I think even like the whole around, I watched that race and like he didn't want to go forward at any stage. He really had to be asked to do the most basic of tasks throughout the race, and then of course with the race at his mercy, he almost threw it away. Billaway, of course, joining that unique group of horses who've traded both 1,000 in running and 101 in running and gotten beaten on both counts. So very impressive stuff from him. And Dermot, I'll finish off with you. The Hunter's Chase at the Cheltenham Festival. Do you have any sort of a view on what might or might not win it?
Not a race that I tend to go mad on. Unless I've had a good day, I'll have a punt here. But Rocky's Howie is the only one that horse caught my attention last year. Ran a blinder, probably went too hard from the front. Was only a 7-year-old. Is 8 years old now, and actually beat the Emmett Mullins horse. It's on the line last time in a point to point. So this horse comes from very, very good quarters here in Declan Queally, and if they can just eke a little bit more out of him. He was only 4 lengths behind last year. He's a year older, year wiser, with this stable a bit longer as well. So at the odds of 12-1 or so on the day, I definitely will be punting the likes of a Rocky's Howie, who doesn't have all that much improvement left in him. Or sorry, not all that much improvement to find to get involved here.
Yeah, for sure. You might like to see him obviously have a run between now and then if possible. From what I can see, he hasn't been out since last May, but that could be just the database that I'm using to look him up. I will stick with you, Dermot, for any handicap fancies you might have at this stage. I know it's pretty early, but if there's anything that's catching your eye already, do feel free to shout it out. You're on mute.
So obviously the entries are soon, so that's probably one of the issues here. But
when are the entries, Dermot?
They're in today, and the weights are out next week. But the unfortunately with the scheduling, but the ones that I'm looking forward to, Darren, are I'd love Under Control in the Coral Cup. I see she's actually in the Moore battle at the weekend, which could see JP going for that double. You know, you get the bonus for
100 grand bonus
both. So yeah, so she to me does look very well handicapped. of 138, especially on a line through the Bet for Hurdle winner. So she's 100% one. And then the other one, they're both handicap hurdlers, both for Nicky Henderson, both owned by JP. No Ordinary Joe has had a season of being absolutely plotted beyond all belief. Second in the Martin Pipe last season and hasn't raised the leg since this year. If you actually watch back that Martin Pipe, he travels all over them and just gets edged out late on by what is a very smart horse in Iroko. No Ordinary Joe ran an absolute screamer that day. Maybe actually committed a little bit too much. But Early Doors won the Martin Pipe a year after going close, and they did damn all with him all season. And then he came back to Cheltenham. No Ordinary Joe has looked a very, very similar proposition. He's basically on the same weight. I think it's £1 in the difference. So No Ordinary Joe and under control. I do think Nicky Henderson has quite a bit now for the handicap hurdles if he wants to fly at them.
Very good. Yeah, 2 JP runners there for Diarmuid Nolan. He'd be no stranger to having a handicap winner. What was the year that he nearly went through all the handicaps? Cheltenham Bar was maybe 1 or 2. Was that 2 years ago?
Yeah, Damn the Company. No, was it Damn the Company? Saint Wa? Was it? Saint Wa?
That could be it. Yeah, that could be it.
Barry Garrity's last season.
Yeah, that's ringing the bell. I just
Damn the Company.
remember.
Epatante won the champion hurdle. Damn the Company won the Coral Cup. Saint Wa won the county hurdle. Yeah, he nearly went through it all. Yeah. Early Doors, was it? Early Doors. Different season. Yeah.
Sorry to burn. It won't come to you now anyhow. But like, I vividly remember the green and gold being in the winners and closer quite frequently that week, and pretty much all of them were plot jobs. So which we love to see. Paddy Aspell, I'm going to come to you next. Any early handicap fancies for the Cheltenham Festival? I know it's a bit tricky without the old entries and weights, but anything that's caught your eye throughout the season?
Yeah, Darren, I thought the UK horse that Sophie Leach brought over and nicked a few quid off you boys for the DRF. I thought Madara was interesting because he's got a grand annual entry and he's got an entry in the plate as well. Round about 12-1 for the grand annual, but very, very early days over fences for this fella. You know, he's only a 5-year-old. I think he's only had very, very limited runs over fences, but just the way he travelled through that Leopardstown race for a horse of his experience, and he bolted up essentially, didn't he? But obviously he'll have a bit more on his plate come Cheltenham, but very, very hardy horse, Madara. There's a couple of others there as well. We spoke about for the DRF, I put up Ted Walsh's Gay Cule. I just think that now they've stepped her up in trip. You know, she looked at the top of her mark, even going up to 3 mile, but she's been very, very competitive, and probably fair to say she was a little bit unlucky at the DRF. She still ran a screamer. You know, Ted Walsh, honestly, the last 2 months, he's only a small stable, but their strike rate's incredible. Another winner yesterday at Punchestown. I mean, how much is that Buchel book got in hand?
Honestly, yeah, he could have £20 more. Yeah, when he sees the fence as well, I'd say there's no end to his improvement, I'd say.
And then when he did hit the front, he went down to the last, like he'd never seen a hurdle. I mean, he's got any amount in hand. But yeah, their yard ticking along really nicely. And a couple of others, obviously, Angel's Dawn for the, what's the chap's name? The trains Angel's Dawn.
Curling.
Sam Curling, yeah.
Sam Curling, yeah. Angel's Dawn, very, very solid horse. Really is, and tends to be a backable price as well. But probably the most interesting one, I thought, he was just watching racing yesterday, lads, was Westport Cove for the Martin Pipe. Because obviously they ran him in the Cheltenham bumper last year, but he was an absolute runaway. Even when he won on debut with Patrick, he ran away with Patrick the whole way. Obviously he had earplugs the whole carry on but the Cheltenham bumper would be far too much for a crazy thing like him. But obviously he's a year older. He has been a bit better this time. But the last 2 times Michael O'Sullivan has ridden him, and they've dropped him in. And he ran very, very well at Clonmel, where he wasn't beaten very far. And then he ran in that Tully Hill race yesterday, and he dropped him in again, and he's settling much better. Now, he was beaten 12 lengths, but he really wasn't given a hard time. It'll be interesting to see what sort of mark he gets. And obviously, is Willie putting Tune and Michael up to ride him? And probably the most interesting thing is he's obviously asked Michael, drop this horse in and see if we can get him set up to deal with the hustle and bustle of a Martin Pipe. If he was to get a reasonable sort of mark, I definitely thought he could be worth a look if he goes in the Martin Pipe.
Yeah, very fair comment. Not the only horse in that Tully Hill race yesterday, I think, to be given an easy time of it with maybe a view to future plans. So we shall see where Westport Cove ends up. Obviously owned by Connolly Hughes of Port West fame from Westport, County Mayo, whereas I think I'm assuming that's where the horse got his name. Gary Connolly, I will come to you last of all for hopefully at least one Cheltenham handicap fancy at this stage.
Yeah, like it's tough to have any bets now at the moment, but before the weight come out, I'll be with them on that No Ordinary Joe. If you want to see how Mark Walsh got that JP job, just rewatch that last race. An absolute masterclass he gave that horse. So he's definitely of interest. Another one like that is listening to Garner Oscar. It's probably one of the only Mullins and novices to have the 4 runs. So really strong form with Cork and reading Tommy wrong. That steps up and trip for the mountain pipe. Depending on what sort of mark he gets, he'd be definitely of interest. But yeah, that's it. I'll have a look at the weights next week and then I'll start trying to find some bets then. It's just too tough without seeing. One thing I would say, I'd be really strong in the English in the handicaps. I think they're going to dominate the handicaps this year. Like I said, the handicapper stalls out what exactly he's up to with these marks. I think the Irish will find it very tough this year. And I wouldn't be surprised if the English won. They'll easily win more, but they could go closer to them.
Yeah, some long overdue lenient handicapping from the English handicap, but they have had their trousers pulled down more than once over the last decade or so. So there'll be time to even the scales somewhat. Anyway, in any case, that brings us to the end of this Monday's Race Hour podcast. Again, with thanks to our sponsors, BetMGM UK, and in association with Gambling.com. Also, we'll be back later on this week to have a quick preview of this weekend's racing ahead of our big Cheltenham preview night in the GOAT next week, where I believe we had some ticket winners who Derek will get in contact with through X/formerly Twitter, the artist formerly known as Twitter, I should say. But anyway, until then, we will chat to you soon. Gamble responsibly, and see you later on the week.
Relentless, remorseless, and pounded Corden Star into submission.